The Hartford suburbs are one of those places that people either really love or quickly realize isn't for them. And that usually has nothing to do with the houses. In this video, I'm breaking down the real pros and cons of living in the Hartford suburbs, not the brochure version, so you can decide if this lifestyle actually fits what you're looking for long term. And stick around to the end, because one of the biggest cons for some is exactly what others love the most. If you're new here, my name is David Constant, and I help people relocate to Hartford and the surrounding suburbs, especially families, hybrid professionals, and buyers moving from places like Boston, New York, New Jersey. If you're thinking about making a move to Connecticut or anywhere around Hartford, make sure you subscribe to this channel and click the bell so you don't miss future videos. I post a lot of deep dive content like this to help people make a confident decision when they're ready. When people talk about living in Hartford, they're usually talking about the metro area, the city plus the surrounding suburbs, not just Hartford itself. So these pros and cons apply to the region as a whole. Places like West Hartford, Glastonbury, Farmington, Avon, Simsbury, and nearby towns. One of the biggest reasons people choose Hartford metro area, and honestly, one of the biggest emotional drivers behind the move, is education. Because for a lot of families, this decision isn't really about a house. It's about what kind of future you're trying to build. According to niche.com, 6 of the top 20 public school districts in the entire state of Connecticut are located right here in Hartford County. Districts like Avon Public Schools, Farmington Public Schools, Glastonbury Public Schools, and Simsbury Public Schools each consistently receive grades of an A or an A+, not just for academic, but for extracurriculars, athletics, world language programs, and special education. But what really matters isn't the ranking, it's the choice. I've had so many conversations with families who say some version of, "We just don't want to get this wrong." They're not chasing the #1 district. They're trying to avoid the regret of realizing 5 years down the road that they limited their kids' options. What the Hartford area offers is depth, not just one perfect district, but many strong ones close together. For a lot of buyers, that creates a sense of security. You're not betting everything on one zip code. You're buying into a region that supports opportunity. On top of public education, the Hartford area is home to some of the most respected private schools in New England. Schools that people move to this region specifically for. Schools like Miss Porter's, Loomis Chaffee, Westminster, Ethel Walker, Avon Old Farms, Kingswood Oxford. Even for families who never plan to use private schools, their presence matters because it shows how deeply education is woven into the identity of this area. And that carries into higher education as well, with schools like University of Hartford, Trinity College, UConn, and St. Joseph's University. These institutions don't just educate students, they create economic stability, employment hubs, and long-term demand in the region. I'll say this personally. When I talk to families who relocate here, the conversation almost always comes back to one thing. We want options for our kids, even if we don't know what those options will be yet. That mindset is what the Hartford metro area supports really well. You don't have to map out every step of your child's future, but you're placing them in a region where opportunity density is high. Education here isn't just about test scores. It's about reducing future risk and expanding future possibility. And that's a powerful reason people choose this area. When you combine that level of educational depth with Hartford's central location and lifestyle, it starts to explain why people who move here don't just come, they settle. Most people don't fully realize how much Hartford's location affects their life until their day-to-day gets more complex. That might be kids, but it might also be work demands, aging parents, travel, or just wanting life to feel more manageable. In most Hartford area suburbs, virtually everything you need is a short drive away. Groceries, gyms, doctors, restaurants, parks, and daily errands. Life here is built around proximity and efficiency, not constant navigation. That convenience, it lowers your friction, and over time, that matters more than people expect. Hartford's location gives you access to major cities like New York City and Boston without requiring you to live inside their daily intensity. For a lot of people, that means enjoying city-level culture, dining, or events occasionally instead of designing their entire life around it. When people consider leaving a large metro area, The biggest fear I hear is, are we going to feel disconnected from everything? And what usually happens is the opposite. What people lose in density and immediacy, they gain back in calm rhythm and control, while still having access to almost everything they care about. The moment it clicks for most buyers is when they realize they're central to everything without the daily chaos. You don't need to live in a city to access the benefits of a city. I worked with a couple who moved here from Jersey City to Wethersfield. For roughly the same price as their 3-bedroom condo, they bought a 4-bedroom home with over 2,500 square feet and a backyard, something that simply wasn't realistic where they were before. What surprised them most wasn't just the space. It was how easy life felt. Errands were close. Weekends were less rushed. In their neighborhood, it felt like a place where they could actually settle into. They didn't feel like they were giving anything up. They felt like they were gaining breathing room. Another thing people don't expect to value as much as they do is Bradley International Airport. It's easy, it's efficient, and far less stressful than larger airports, which matters whether you travel for work, family, or just want flexibility. For people who fly a few times a year, that convenience adds up quickly. I always make sure buyers understand a few things clearly. You will need a car. Public transportation is limited. If you work locally, which side of Hartford you live on definitely matters. Commute patterns here are real. Hartford, while a city, it's not a cultural magnet like Boston or New York. And most day-to-day life here happens in your local town or neighborhood, not downtown. And that's intentional. Hartford works especially well for people who work locally or hybrid and remote. They want flexibility instead of obligation. They value access to cities without needing daily immersion. And they want life to feel easier as responsibilities grow. What people gain by choosing Hartford's location is time, flexibility, and less stress. And for many people, that's the difference between managing life and actually enjoying it. And when you combine that kind of location flexibility with strong education, community, and long-term stability, it becomes easier to understand why so many people choose Hartford metro area and stay. Quick pause here before we get into that third pro of living in Hartford. If you're watching this because you're considering a move to the Hartford area, I put together a free Hartford relocation guide that breaks down how the region actually works. Towns, commutes, school districts, and lifestyle differences. You can download it by using the link below. All right, let's go. When you combine location flexibility with what daily life actually feels like here, you start to understand why people don't just move to the Hartford metro area, they settle in. When people talk about New England charm, they're not just talking about aesthetics. They're talking about how life is structured. In the Hartford metro area, that shows up in very tangible ways. In towns like West Hartford Center, daily life spills out into the open. You've got restaurants, coffee shops, sidewalks, and community events all in one place. You see it in spots like Elizabeth Park with the Rose Garden, where people gather for walks, events, or just a quiet break in the middle of the day. And in towns like Glastonbury, traditions like Apple Harvest Festival aren't just events, they're annual markers that people plan around. These aren't just one-off occasions. They define the rhythm of the region. One of the biggest differences people notice after moving here is how much life revolves around town centers and neighborhoods, not just individual homes. Whether it's walking through old Wethersfield, spending weekends in Simsbury's town center, or grabbing dinner close to home instead of having to plan a whole night around it, life here feels local in a good way. The seasons also matter here, not in a postcard way, but in how people live. Fall brings community events and outdoor weekends. Winter slows things down a bit. Spring, it feels like a reset. And summer is built around travel, town events, and time outside. That rhythm gives life a cadence, which a lot of people realize they were missing. Many people moving here are coming from places that felt fast, loud, or constantly in motion. What they find in the Hartford metro area is something different, a lifestyle that's intentional, familiar, and grounded, without feeling stagnant. Of course, this also means Hartford doesn't have nonstop novelty or 24/7 energy. If you want constant life, or endless new experiences at your doorstep, this might feel too quiet. But for people who value quality of life over quantity of options, this lifestyle is exactly the point. The Hartford area offers a version of New England living that's less about spectacle and more about belonging. As strong as the lifestyle and location are, the Hartford metro area comes with real trade-offs. Being honest about these up front is the difference between people who love living here and people who feel frustrated 6 months in. One of the biggest misconceptions is that Hartford is cheap just because it's smaller than places like New York, Boston, or California. The reality is much more nuanced. The cost of living in the Hartford metro area is shaped by a few things: property taxes, which can be significant depending on the town, housing prices, especially in high-demand suburbs, car dependency, which means reliable vehicles, gas, insurance, and maintenance, and childcare costs, which are among the highest in the country. All of this adds up, especially compared to rural Connecticut, the Midwest, or the South. Hartford is affordable relative to major coastal metros, but it's not a low-cost area overall. This con tends to hit people the hardest when they're relocating from lower-cost regions and aren't used to the day-to-day cost structure of the Northeast. This sticker shock usually isn't one big expense. It's realizing everything costs a little bit more than expected. Hey guys, it's Dave Constant. As much as I love making these videos, there's one thing I love more, and that's helping families and people from all over the country make the move here to Central Connecticut. I've helped countless families make the move, so whether you're coming out the next week, the next month, or even next year, don't hesitate to reach out. My contact information is right here on the screen and linked in the description in case you missed the on-screen pop-up. I look forward to helping you and your family make the move. Another major adjustment for buyers is how competitive the housing market can be, especially in desirable Hartford-area suburbs. People often underestimate how fast good homes move, how little inventory there actually is, how important it is to know what truly matters and what can be worked on later. In strong towns, waiting for perfect usually means missing out entirely. The biggest mindset shift buyers need to make here is letting go of perfection and acting decisively. Homes that check the most important boxes tend to attract multiple buyers. In hesitation, it can be costly. I see this pattern all the time. Buyers try to beat the system, wait for a price drop, or hesitate over small details. And months later, they're still looking, while the homes they almost bought are now selling for more. Almost every one of those buyers says the same thing: I wish we had just gone off that extra $5,000 or $10,000. In the long run, that difference is usually pennies compared to the lost opportunity. Hartford's not Boston, and it's definitely not New York. And it's important to say that plainly. That doesn't mean it's boring. It means it offers different options at a different scale. The Hartford metro area has breweries and food halls, a strong local restaurant scene, shopping districts and town centers, community events, and seasonal festivals. These things just tend to be more spread out and less concentrated than in a major metro. People who struggle with this the most are usually those who rely heavily on nightlife. They expect constant novelty. They want to depend solely on public transportation. If that's central to your identity, Hartford may feel slower. People who love living here say something very different. There's always something to do. You just have to know where to look. I love not feeling rushed all the time. Weekends actually feel like weekends. For them, the quieter pace isn't a downside, it's the point. Each of these cons is really a trade-off. Hartford trades ultra-low cost for long-term stability, endless inventory for strong demand, and a frenetic energy for balance. For the right person, that trade feels like an upgrade. For the wrong person, it feels limiting. And when you put the pros and cons together, the Hartford metro area becomes less about being the best place to live and more about being the right place for certain people at the right stage of life. If you're thinking about moving to the Hartford metro area and you want help deciding whether that lifestyle fits you, feel free to reach out. I'm always happy to be a resource. And if this video helped you, give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and click the bell so you don't miss any future videos on Hartford and the Connecticut area. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.